Okay. Senator Portman, the first thing I wanted to ask you about, I guess a city council member, P.G. Sittenfeld, and some other people are having a rally here today talking about calling on you to stop President Trump from destroying the EPA. What is your response to that? I mean, I haven't heard anything about the EPA recently.
Yeah, it sounds like partisan politics at its best, and that's fine. But President Trump did recommend that there'll be some cuts in the EPA budget. I opposed those. Congress actually rejected those, and the water office in Cincinnati, as an example, has seen no cuts as a result. And in fact, I have fought every year against the Obama administration and now against the Trump administration to keep the funding in place that's really important for Ohio in what's called the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which is primarily through the EPA. And once again, we were successful. That full funding was included in this current spending bill, despite the administrations wanting to eliminate it. The Obama administration wanted to cut it, and we fought them and won as well. So we'll continue the fight, as I have been, and be sure that we have a strong water research office in Cincinnati and that we protect some of the good projects like the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative.
Mm-hmm. Also, we've seen that the Senate has, I guess the Republicans are saying they have enough votes to repeal the individual mandate in the Affordable Care Act. Are you supportive of that? Would you be voting for any measure that repeals or strips the individual mandate?
Yeah, I do think that it's an important thing to have middle-class tax cuts, and in the legislation what will happen is if the individual mandate is repealed, it provides more funding for more tax cuts for the middle class. I think that's good. It also enables us to double the child tax credit, which is now at $1,000. It'll go up to $2,000. I do think that along with that, we should take steps to ensure that the market in Ohio, the healthcare market, is stronger. And so I will also be supporting, as part of another bill, efforts to be sure that we don't have a big increase in premiums. We've already got a big one scheduled, and the Affordable Care Act does not work for Ohio. Costs have gone up almost double for those people who are in the individual market. And so we do need to do something there. So that's I think, a good combination, more middle-class tax cuts, but also doing some things with regard to the insurance market in Ohio to keep the costs from skyrocketing.
Mm-hmm. And as far as tax reform goes, there's been talk that Senate and House leaders want to get this done before the end of the year. Do you see that happening, and are you supportive of the Senate bill in its current form?
Yeah, I think the Senate bill is going to be very helpful for families in Ohio. One, it does have a substantial tax cut for middle-class families. The median family income in Ohio is going to be let me start over on that for a second, Angelina. I am strongly supportive of the tax reform effort. It's going to help middle-class families in Ohio. In Ohio, a family at the median income level will receive over $2,400 a year in tax cuts under this proposal. It also does some good things to keep jobs and investment from leaving our country. Right now, our tax code actually encourages that to happen. We want to bring those jobs and investment back here, including bringing back about $2.5 or $3 trillion that's locked up overseas in earnings of U.S. companies. We want that back here to be invested in jobs and plant and equipment. So I think this is a good proposal that's really going to help Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And the majority leader, I guess in the last day or two, actually it's been more than the last day or two, has said that he would try to block Roy Moore from joining the Senate should he be elected. What are your feelings about Roy Moore? I know the Republicans, the RNC, has cut off money to him or is in the process of doing so. What are your feelings about him and the allegations against him?
Yeah, I've made my position clear on this. I think he should step aside. I think given all the allegations and all the controversy that would be best for the country and best for the people of Alabama.
Do you think, and I'm sorry, I meant to go back to tax reform really quickly. Do you think that they can get this done before the end of the year?
I do. Yeah, I think we're on track this week to complete the bill in the committee. We're going to have some late nights tonight, tomorrow night, and maybe through the weekend, and that's good because everybody will have a chance to offer their amendments and have a full debate. We also ought to have a full debate on the floor of the Senate, which will happen probably the week after Thanksgiving. And so I think we're on track to get it done before the end of the year. And that's good because it'll provide middle-class tax relief. It'll also help to keep jobs and investment here in this country rather than overseas. And I think that's really important right now.
And then I wanted to ask you about Jeff Sessions. He testified on the Hill yesterday. As far as the Russia investigation and the allegations or accusations that the Trump campaign was colluding with Russia, what are your feelings on that and the senator's, the Attorney General's testimony yesterday?
Well, I've supported two things. One is the Bob Mueller investigation, which is the current special counsel investigation. I think they should get to the bottom of all of this. I do think the Russians meddled in our election. I think they do it all over the world with democracies, and I've taken a lead on that over the years. And I think this investigation ought to not just determine, what happened, but what we should do in the future to keep it from happening again. Second, I'm supporting the efforts here on the Hill. There is a bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee investigation also going on, and it has been bipartisan. Senator Warner and Senator Burr have, I think, conducted the committee well, and they too are expected to report soon. So let's get to the bottom of it. Let's follow the facts where they lead us, and let's be sure that we're not going to have the kind of meddling and the interference in our democracy that we had in this last election going forward.
And finally, I just wanted to ask you about DACA. I covered a rally probably a month or two ago with some DACA recipients in front of your office. Is there anything that you think that the Senate and the House can do or will do to protect DACA recipients moving forward?
Yeah, I think the House and Senate will act on DACA. As you may know, I've supported DACA, but I've supported it on a legislative front. In other words, what President Obama did, I did not believe was legal or constitutional because it was something that had to be done by law, not by executive action. The courts agreed with that, and that's why DACA is now only temporary because it has been kicked back to Congress to say, okay, Congress, you figure this out. Let's come up with a proposal. So I think legislating on it and encouraging the House and Senate to give these young people some predictability and certainty is a good thing.
Great. Well, thank you, Senator Portman.